Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN, Season 6 of the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. Hey, have you tried the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high-proof, full-bodied whiskey? The aromas of toffee, spicy vanilla, caramel, rich oak, and then that butterscotch finish that is just so smooth.
Yum.
Invite your senses to an elevated Canadian whiskey experience with Canadian Club. Ray, I can see you. Is it snowing in New York or all this?
It is not. It is dry and a little gray, but there's a lot of traffic around yesterday, Dregs. A lot of traffic.
Well, it's the holiday season, right?
Yeah.
U.S. Thanksgiving just kickstarts Christmas, so everybody's trying to get their shopping in early, I expect.
Yeah, it was should be about 25 minutes from LaGuardia, or 30 minutes, and it was like an hour and 20. So there's just nowhere to go. I'm like, oh boy. But anyways, in for the Islanders tonight and Rangers tomorrow.
Yeah. Reason I ask about the snow is we got hit here in Southern Ontario on Wednesday, which, I've got that depth of prairie experience, right? Growing up in Saskatchewan and
sure.
Snow in October, it's not that big of a deal. So I'm not amused. I've been in Toronto, the GTA, since 1998. So I could appreciate how the world kind of shuts down when there's more than an inch of snow. But every year, that first snowfall, which we experienced on Wednesday, does amuse me because you know me, right? It's snowblower season. So any chance I have to fire that bad boy up,
you're such a farmer. You really are. You are so. I'm gonna go fire it up, Holly. Oh yeah, go ahead, Darren. Have fun.
Yeah. But you know what? Everybody was on their game. I don't complain about this. I mean, when I can help my neighbors, I help my neighbors. Didn't have to yesterday. I mean, the kids were out shoveling. Everybody was out shoveling. So.
Was your kid out shoveling?
No. He's a salesman. Yeah. He was out working. He was out pounding the snow-covered pavement. Yeah.
Good for him. Attaboy. Dig in.
All right. Well, again, you're traveling, but you paid close attention to what went on Wednesday with the unveiling of the rosters, all four of them, for the Four Nations face-off. Everybody wants to say Cup, the Four Nations Cup. I don't know. Does it roll off the tongue easier, better than Four Nations face-off? But I've trained myself now. Yeah. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But it's just, I don't know. Is there a cup?
Yeah, that's a good question. What is that trophy? We're going to have to get Ryan Rashog to do his investigative reporting here and find out. There's got to be something. I mean, what do you give them? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Gift certificate somewhere? I don't know.
No, I don't know. All right. Well, we're going to do a deep. What's that?
What did you think of the rosters?
Well, I mean, kind of blew the surprise on Tuesday with the unveiling of the Team Canada roster, and had a pretty good handle on Team USA. By the way, Bill Guerin, general manager for Team USA and the Minnesota Wild, will join us in this episode. So we've got a lot.
You know who's going to be a problem? Who's going to be a problem? The Swedes.
Yeah, I think you're right, huh?
That looks like a really good team. And I would say if you're rating the talent or noteworthiness, the Finns are fourth. But do not ever look by those scrappy. They're I don't even know what to call them. They're like every tournament they're a pain in the ass to play against. They're really good.
Well, how about their first line, Aho, Barkov, and Mikko Rantanen? That's not a bad way to roll it out for line one for Finland.
You know what? I'm curious. We'll ask Billy about it. Like you got like a 7-minute training camp. And like, how do you put a system together? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, it can't be too detailed or too complicated, or because you don't. I mean, if you lose your first game, you might really be behind the 8 ball. So it's I'm curious how they've plotted and planned all that.
Okay, real quick question for you before we get to the Tim Hortons headlines here. Put your spicy, surly, grumpy old NHL general manager hat on for just a moment.
Sure.
And you've got one of your top players who's got something nagging, not serious, can play through it, but isn't great. And you're a week outside the Four Nations face-off. What are you saying? Are you saying, hey, Austin Matthews, that issue that you dealt with early in the year, our medical people are telling us that you're hampered by it. So guess what? You're not going. How do you deal with
that would be really difficult, because for your team, the best part, of course, is going to be to take a half a step back, right? Not play.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
but what if, you're talking about, like, you bring up Austin Matthews, but what if it's a player that, Matthews is going to play in the Olympics next year, right? Like that's just going to be. But what if it's a player that might not? What if this might be his best on best only chance? Like,
That's tough.
it would be difficult, because it would grind the guy for sure, because, we heard enough yesterday about how hard it was for players that were close to, to get the left turn and they're not going. And if you're there and you get, you're nicked up a bit, you say, how would I deal with it? I guess I would rely on my team doctors. And then I'd certainly you'd be talking to the player and the agent, and just try and get a sense. And because, man, it would sure suck to lose somebody for 3 months in any of these events. And it's always a risk. And it's happened before.
Yeah. And inevitably there will be injuries. And that's why, some of the omissions that, I had hockey fans rankled on Wednesday, might be ads as you get closer to the Four Nations. All right. Headlines brought to us by Tim Hortons. Tim's holiday menu is back with festive favorites like the caramel brownie filled ring dream donut. Delicious. Hot chocolate muffin. Can't go wrong with that. Double chocolate brownie. And the guest favorite, candy cane hot chocolates. Stop by your local Tim's for some fun gift ideas as well, like the Tim's themed ornament, snow globe, toy delivery truck. They've got plushies, scented candles, and so much more. All right, Team Canada, all very familiar names up front, as we touched on the majority of them, I would say, on Tuesday's episode. Seth Jarvis, Ray, was not on my radar until Tuesday afternoon, after we recorded the podcast, started to evolve, and we learned that, you know what? Call it 13th forward, whatever you want. Seth Jarvis is going to make that team. A surprise ad for you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect his name, mainly because it hadn't been even talked about, so I hadn't even really thought about it. I was watching Brad Marchand in one of his 9 interviews he did yesterday, and which are all hilarious. They're all
so
really
good.
Great.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed, though, when Biz was giving him shit about the Bruins power play. I was so disappointed that he said, the only thing you know about a power play, Biz, is that you used to sit and watch it. Like, the answer was right there for him, and he just missed it. He didn't have it, but he got him about 3 other times. But he said the player he's looking forward to playing with is Jarvis. Yeah, and Jarvis is, man, you watch him play, he's a little bit of an unmade bed. He's just a gamer, though. Like, he's really skilled. He's talented, of course, but he's a gamer. And I could see why his inclusion would be one they would have talked about and said, you know what, this guy could help us on right wing. He can play left wing. He kills some penalties. He can fill in around the power play. And it's funny to say fill in around the power play, but look at the other guys there. It's kind of crowded. Yeah, so he did surprise me for sure that he was included.
So obviously John Cooper he has earned the right to have considerable influence in what this roster looks like. He's the coach. He's going to play and lean on certain players in a myriad of different scenarios, right? So I think he would have had influence, of course, in seeing Seth Jarvis play for the Carolina Hurricanes a lot. Clearly the start of Brandon Hagel, right, with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know, people kind of circle his name and going, well, that's a bit curious. Well, it's not when you look at the year that Brandon Hagel is having. And, Cirelli, there's familiarity and just hockey Q out the wazoo. But the reason I bring up Cooper and the influence that he would have, does that make sense when you see a player like Jarvis playing with Carolina more than you would see a player like Zach Hyman, who, of course, you know and respect, or Mark Scheifele, who you know and respect with the Winnipeg Jets? Does that give Jarvis or any of those guys, Hagel included, a bit of an inside step?
Okay, sure, maybe, but I think what gives them an inside step is you're not building an all-star team, you're building a team. And
Yeah.
so this will sound goofy, but John Tavares or Mark Scheifele, they can't do what Brandon Hagel does. They just don't play like that. I mean, Scheifele does many things that Hagel can't do. So does Tavares. But they're trying to build a team, and I think that's where the people call them snubs or whatever. But
Yeah.
that's where the discussions show up. Is the coach and the management is trying to build. Not a, well, I guess a four-line team that can have some versatility to it, a team that can kill penalties. You got to have some grit and some grind on it, and I think
Yeah.
those players probably push their way onto the roster because of that, more than
Mm-hmm.
more than anything else.
Yeah. No, I get it. I want to get, obviously, we're going to quickly get to the D and the goaltending as well,
Yeah.
because every position has some question marks beside it. I don't know if this is going to piss you off or not, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Among the things that were listed as criteria to me in Canada picking this team, and it would be probably bottom of the list of the criteria. I mean, of course, you have to be a versatile player. If you're a center, you got to be able to play the wing. If you're the
Right.
defense, you got to be able to play both sides, right? We can appreciate that. The
Sure.
competitiveness, the balance required. Your history with Hockey Canada also on the list of criteria. And the reason I bring it up is there was some grumbling around Nick Suzuki when he turned down Canada, the men's worlds again this past spring, right? And it's not the first time. I would argue that Suzuki didn't play his way onto this team this year. He's been playing better of late. I'll give him that
Sure.
much. He's been playing better of late. How much of that hockey history, which maybe kind of leaps over into goaltending as well, because Sam Montembeault probably gets the edge over. I mean, Logan Thompson's a winner. Come on. I mean, Stuart Skinner maybe, but Montembeault won the men's worlds with Canada. Young
Sure.
goalie, so they want to reward him with that. Do you think that Hockey Canada history should have any bearing factoring into any of this in any way, shape, or form?
Like as low on the list as possible. Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, as low as possible. Because what if Mitch Marner or Connor McDavid had turned down the men's worlds last year? Were they not going to be on the team? Oh, probably they would be on the team. Right. So I
Yeah.
think it only matters in some cases. Um, Montembeault, I think, matters more than the others because the position is not airtight. And so here's somebody that played in an international event, which I still, as I talk about it, I think less and less about it because it's an NHL event. It's not an international event.
No, that's
Like
right.
they're all. Is there one non-NHL player on any of the rosters?
I don't believe so.
So it's not like when you go to the Worlds. It's a bit of a grab bag sometime with some of the
It can be,
rosters
yeah.
in it,
Yeah.
and so I I don't know that I really buy into that. Like, I mean, they told you it was, so yeah, so it is. But
Mm.
I really don't, unless the guy said no 6 times in a row, it's a different story. But um, something like that, I don't know. I want the best team out there.
Mhm.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Okay, we speaking of best team, when you look at Team USA, I mean, what does it matter when it's on paper? What matters is, how you play head to head, right? In
Right.
February, that defense, which we will discuss with Billy Guerin, that Team USA
Yep.
defense is just loaded, right? So when you look at the Canadian blue line, I mean, Travis Sanheim played his way in, as we talked about on Tuesday, right? And would you say the same of Colton Parayko when you look at Team Canada's defensive core?
Sure, I would. And so you brought up Sorelli and Hagel with John Cooper. Do you think when Doug Armstrong's watching Colton Parayko play every game that
Yeah,
maybe he's getting
yeah.
a really good appreciation for him? I've got St. Louis coming up in a game, and I was reading some quotes, and they're like the one change in Parayko this year is everything he's doing is far more aggressive than in the past. Like he's more aggressive defensively, he's more aggressive offensively. Remember, there was a time right around when he signed his big contract that people were thinking of him in a different level of player, like at the top of the
Yeah.
group of defensemen, and it just hasn't turned out that way. I think there's been a little bit of maybe settling or comfort, and the fact that he's, if he's playing more aggressively, like he's a monster, he can skate, he can shoot.
Yeah.
So yeah, he surprised me a little bit. That came out of left field for me a bit. But it's a good defense too. I mean, like, well,
Sure
they
it
all
is.
are. There's
Yeah.
the U.S. defense though is, to me, is standalone group, and they've got potential to be a difference maker, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So if you're the general manager, is Evan Bouchard, as an example, we talked about some of the omissions up front, and there are others. I mean, I mentioned Suzuki, Tavares, Scheifele, Zach Hyman, of course. You can come up with a number of Canadian passport guys that maybe should be. Where does Evan Bouchard fit? Is that the closest miss? Is he ahead of Chris Tanev, as an example, as a defenseman who could have or maybe should have?
I will say yes, but barely, and it might depend on what you're looking for at that time and how they've played between now and then. Like that, 2 months is a long time. There are guys here like, Hyman is a perfect example. He's had a brutal start, coming off a career year. He got hurt. What if somebody gets banged up and for the next 2 months he's got 19 goals? Right? You go, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So to put this, again, we'll ask Billy, but just, you have a quasi support list at this time, or a watch list. But if somebody comes up on the far rail here and just has 2 amazing months, then maybe they become the player that you tap to fill in for an injury.
Sure. And look, I'm sure that the Americans did it. All four of the teams' management groups would have done it. Morgan Riley as an example. Maybe Canada had the same conversation with Evan Bouchard. Just be ready. It sucks that you're not being named on the 4th of December, but be ready, which is also a tall ask, because what if there isn't an injury, right? These guys are just supposed to sit and wait by the phone rather than, enjoy some downtime and earned rest.
No, I'd suggest book a trip. Book a trip anyway. You can always
cancellation insurance. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you can't sit there. There's a famous story from, I think it's the '09 juniors in Ottawa. And, the late Pat Quinn was coaching, and they got right down to the last cuts, and he told 3 guys they were the last cut because he didn't really want to hurt anybody's feelings. And then somebody got hurt, and all 3 of these guys thought they were going to be the first guy in. So I think it turned out to be Evander Kane, but he had told 3 guys they were the last cut, so they all thought they might get a chance.
Yeah. You mentioned Brad Marchand, and again, he was part of that group that was originally named back in June. I threw the dart at you with the history of Hockey Canada and whatnot. Is Brad Marchand on this team, if not named in June?
Maybe not. No, I did a game of his on, I don't even know what day it is today, Thursday, on Tuesday. Yeah, in Boston. And to me, it looks like he's skating better again. And remember, he had 3 surgeries in the off season. So those surgeries would have put him way behind the 8 ball if he wasn't named in the summertime. He got 2 goals last night in Chicago. It's like his play's trending the right way. But to your point, those 2 goals wouldn't have had any factor in it because the team was already picked. Right. He might not have been. He might not have been. And he also might be the type of player that by the time the tournament's rolling around and his game's in top order, Canada's going to benefit from the fact that he was named in the summer.
All right, let's compare goaltending. I mean, it's a tough comparison, and maybe it comes down to goaltending. It looks like the design of Team USA, Team Canada has built Oregon on that balance and competitiveness to take some of the pressure off of the goaltending. But in that regard, if you do want to compare trio versus trio, it's a misfit, right? When you look at
Yeah.
USA with Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman, Bennington, Hill, and Montembeault. Any surprises?
Yeah, you know what? I maybe a little bit of we talked about this, but I picked Thompson for my team as the third
Mm-hmm.
guy. But I also had a thought that maybe it would be Fleury. And the reason I did, and I don't even know if he was even considered, but your third guy, if you get to your third goalie, you're out of the tournament,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like and
Oh
so
yeah. Three games in the round robin. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, that third guy, I would be drawn in by Fleury's personality and his ability to not let anything bug him.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what if somebody got hurt and you had to go to him and he's been sitting around for a week? I don't think there's anybody more qualified to step in and do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that would have given me some pause, but I get the three they took because it's a grab bag. It really is in goal in Canada. And for the US, um, just think if Thatcher Demko was healthy.
Yeah.
Like
Well, then maybe
they
Swayman's got a problem, right?
right. And
Yeah.
so I mean they're picking they would have had uncertainty in a different direction. I mean the US
Mm-hmm.
goaltending's is as deep as anybody. It's the best in the tournament.
Yeah.
But in 1 week or 10 days it might not be,
Hmm.
right? Like what if Aiden Hill gets in there and it's Stanley Cup Finals Aiden Hill? And Canada doesn't have a problem.
Yeah. Well, he was good the other night. And
Yeah,
then look,
against Edmonton, yeah, he's
yeah.
fantastic.
And I was told post unveiling on Wednesday night that okay, every position is debated aside from the superstars that you're bringing in,
Yeah,
but the
sure.
goaltending for Team Canada, that was exhaustive. The discussion
Yeah,
on who that number three can be, because yeah, you've got Logan Thompson, you've got Stu Skinner in the mix. I'm sure they had some level of conversation on Marc-Andre Fleury. Why wouldn't you, right? And your point is well made in that if you get to that number three, then you've got issues that probably go beyond goaltending. But they don't necessarily look at it that way because they don't have what they would describe as that definitive number one. They're kind of sitting there going, and then isn't
well,
that going to be the intriguing storyline though for you, right? Like, so you get 2 games into this thing, and Bennington has started, Hill has started. Now you're going into game 3, and assuming that you're playing for the championship final in the next game, right? You got to
right.
make that goaltending decision.
Well, go back to 2010. I mean, Roberto Luongo won the gold medal. He was not the starter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Marty Brodeur was, and
Mm-hmm.
things happen remarkably fast in a tournament, and there's not much. Not that there's not much. There's no time to wait around. And if somebody doesn't look like they've got it, they're going to go to the next guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I mean, for every big game in John Cooper's career, he turned around and tapped on number 88, and Vasilevsky went out to the net. And it's a great luxury that he'll tell you about anytime you ask.
Yeah.
And now there's going to be decisions to be made, and some of it will be, you've got your goalie coaches and your goalie, management part, but some
Yeah.
of it's going to be gut feel for Cooper, like who they're looking at, who they feel's played the best for that game one, like who's playing the best at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And that may change week to week until they get right up to, February 10th.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got Team USA general manager Bill Guerin, also general manager of the Minnesota Wild, who are a pretty good story in the NHL. Coming up here on the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast, real quick before we wrap up the headlines, we will talk about Minnesota, obviously, with Billy. Tough blow for the Dallas Stars, right?
Oh,
Tyler
brutal.
Seguin, post surgeries, is out minimum 4 to 6 months, not weeks, months. So at best, he's back for the playoffs. If you're Jim Nill and the Dallas Stars, who have kind of been hot and cold, right? Wobbling a little bit to this point of the regular season. Is it a no-brainer that you go out and try and use that cap space and bring something in?
Yeah, but you don't have to do it by Thursday.
No,
You know,
no,
like
no,
you,
no. Yeah.
you know, like you've. I think there's been no indication that Dallas wouldn't use the money available to any money available to improve their team. They got a very good team, um, but again, we're before Christmas here. You've got a couple of
Yeah.
months to look and make and evaluate who you might make a deal with. Um, I do like the fact if it's an impactful player. I like the fact of teams trying to go and do it a little early so that guy's got time to settle in and try
That
and figure
matters.
out,
Yeah.
figure out like even just where do I live and what the hell am I doing with my family? Are they staying for the kids in school or are they coming with me? Or,
Yeah.
like how do I even get to the practice rink? Like all that stuff
Yeah.
takes time and it takes time to settle in. And then there's, of course, the where do I fit on this team? What role am I in? Who am I playing with? And so I would think if it's an impactful player, the goal would be earlier rather than waiting to the deadline.
Well, it's a story we'll continue to monitor and speculate on moving forward here on the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Those are your headlines. Thank you to Tim Hortons.
Your favorite festive duo is back at Tim's. Try our new non-alcoholic Bailey's Dream Hot Chocolate. Enjoy our newly improved Bailey's Cream Coffee or the full lineup. Rediscover the classics you crave with a touch of holiday magic and non-alcoholic Bailey's at Tim's.
Our interviews on Ray and Dregs are brought to us by Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old High Proof. Invite your senses to an elevated Canadian whiskey experience with Canadian Club. All right, pleased to be joined on the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast by a friend of the show, Bill Guerin, who is, of course, general manager for the Minnesota Wild, general manager for Team USA. And normally we start and we kick it around. We have some fun with you, Billy, because you're open to that kind of shenanigans, but serious stuff. So we need to start the conversation with Team USA. Now, some hockey veterans, savvy old international coaches have suggested to me that this could be the most competitive Team USA ever assembled. Is that fair? I mean, given the task that you just went through?
Yeah, I definitely think it's fair. We just went through, a long process of picking this team, deciding who the best players were going to be to give it the best chance at winning. And the player pool is, I mean, it's deeper than it's ever been.
Crazy.
It's nuts. And but you know what? In the end, we have to win. And look, all four teams are saying that, but in order to be, um, put at a different level, an upper echelon, take this thing to a whole different uh, place, we need to start compiling some wins.
When you got hired to be the GM here, did you have an idea of what the team could look like? And then you hire your management group and your coaches, and how much did that change maybe from what you initially thought to what you ended up with?
Well, I've worked with Mike Sullivan before in Pittsburgh. I know how he likes to coach. I know how he likes his teams to play. We're very much on the same page as that, or for with that. So really, just getting together with him and deciding on how we want to do this, how we want to play, relaying that to the management group, the assistant coaches, guys like that. That's kind of the way it's gone. Sully's got to be comfortable with the players that we have, but mostly it's the identity of the team. And we look at the top players that we have in for the United States, and we've got to formulate a game plan around them.
So now you know how Sully likes to play. You've got your team. The tournament is going to show up and then be over in like a heartbeat. So
Yeah.
how much in advance, Billy, can you guys get like because there's no camp, like a game plan and a system and such to the players. Like, do you email them out a thing a
Oh,
week
Ray, come
before?
on.
Or,
I
like,
mean, gee, Ray, you
what? There's
really?
no plan? There's no plan? I like it.
No, you want me to give you all my secrets?
No, what I'm saying is
Like,
you
yeah,
got these guys, everybody wants to play a
I know
certain
what you're
way.
trying
Like,
to do.
do you think I care who wins? Why would I care?
Yes, I
I'm
do.
not in
Yes,
the
I do.
tournament. I'm not in the
I
tournament.
know.
It's
I'm
like the
just kidding.
Stanley Cup.
You know
You know
what?
who I hope wins?
Actually
You know who I hope wins the
amazing.
cup, Billy? Nobody. If I can't
I
win it,
know.
I hope nobody wins.
Well, if we don't win, that's who I hope wins.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
exactly, right,
Totally.
right.
So, you know what? To answer your question, like technology is amazing now, and you know, Ray, thank God we played in an age where there wasn't a ton of video because there's nowhere
Beautiful.
to hide now. They can get everything
Uh,
to you.
Yeah, yeah,
There's ways to communicate between staff and your players.
yeah.
Depending on the situation. So the way we're looking at this is a plug and play tournament. We're gonna do as much as we can for the players without being overbearing.
Mm,
You've seen the list of players for all four teams now. These are
yeah.
the elite of
yeah.
the elite. We've got to let them play too, and so we give them guidelines, but we don't want to be overbearing.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah, Billy, both Canada and the United States, obviously, I mean, you literally could dress multiple teams. I mean, that's just the talent pool that is available. So you got to make tough decisions, and all four countries would have had to make difficult decisions. Cole Caulfield, Tage Thompson, two young players are on the outside looking in. So the message when you make that call, specifically on those two players, is it? Sorry, I mean, experience, the competitive nature of this event, all of those things are factors, but we need you to focus on 26, the Olympic team, because by then, chances are you played your way into that scenario.
Well, I think first and foremost, you acknowledge how they're doing. Like, look, those two you brought up those two names. They're excellent young players. They are part of USA Hockey's future. They are their impact guys are having great seasons. It's just we had to make difficult decisions,
Yeah.
and right or wrong, that those are the decisions we made. But stay focused, continue to have a good year. We don't know what's going to happen with injuries, and you know what? Next year's an Olympic year. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But you know what? For those two, like, and this is easy to say, don't get discouraged, and because they have to know that they are a big part of this. They've got a lot of this left in their future.
How much did versatility pop into things for you? Like guys that can play
Quite a
up and
bit.
down and around. Yeah.
Yeah, quite a bit. And I think if you see, I mean, honestly, this is pretty amazing tournament. I mean, the four teams, if you look at them, like anybody on all four of these teams can play anywhere. But that was a specific thing that we were looking for, was versatility, especially at the center position. Can he? Apparently, everybody in the world can play wing. All right.
Yes,
I
they
I
can.
I I, I thought it was hard.
No. It took out half your brain and went over by the boards. It was easy over there.
It's unbelievable. Oh, if he can't play center, put him on wing. Oh, if he's struggling on D, put him on wing. I'm like, I thought it was tough, but that was a big factor, is versatility. And we see guys like, like Vincent Trocheck, Brock Nelson, Dylan Larkin. They can all play center. Chris Kreider can play all the way up on the first line. He can play a role. He can kill penalties. You know what? Mac Boldy can take faceoffs. Jake Gensel can take faceoffs. All these, JT Miller can play the center. He can play center and the wing. So can Jack Hughes.
Mhm.
And actually Quinn Hughes would be an unbelievable winger. Actually, probably center. He's too smart.
Center. It's too smart. You
But
got to get him in the middle.
yeah. But that was a big part of it.
You in your journey as a player, you ran across Big Walt, Keith Tkachuk, many, many, many times, and teammates and all that stuff. Now you got his boys on the team. Like it, does that? Do you have a little giggle about that? Like now you've got his kids that are fabulous players and are on your team.
They're more like Chantel than they are like Keith, and that's
Ooh.
why they're on the team.
It's a good thing, isn't it?
No, they are. Listen, I've known those kids since they were born, and Walt is a dear friend, and he was an unbelievable player and competitor and teammate, and I saw those boys grow up, and I know the values and the character that him and Chantel have given all three of their kids, and they're the highest character and highest compete levels, and then tremendously skilled. And you look at what they're both wearing letters on their teams. You look what Matthew did for the Florida Panthers, and what Brady's doing in Ottawa. It's just amazing. Even their sister Taryn is a high level field hockey player in Virginia.
Yeah.
But they're all character people, and and that we need that.
Yeah. What do you? How hard was it to pick your three goalies? You had about 8 of them. I mean, my gosh, where did this all come from? What a group you got there, Billy.
Yeah, we do. We feel fortunate. We've got a special group. There are a number of guys that we looked at, but in the end, we look at the seasons that they're having and body of work. The type of games that they've played in. They've all played in big games, high stake games, and that's really important because this is high stakes. This is going to be pressure, and this is going to be on the biggest stage. So, and for a lot of our players, that was another characteristic we looked at. How many big games have these guys played in? Where are they, and what's their experience? So, for the goalies, that was a big factor.
And Bill Guerin joining us on the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast. Billy, let's shift over to the Minnesota Wild. Another terrific story, as you know, and maybe you learned this from Jimmy Rutherford in your days with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but you're always, as a GM in the NHL, up to something. Guerin is always involved in something. And, recently it's the addition of David Jiricek from the Columbus Blue Jackets. So a quick thought on him. You gave up a fair amount to acquire a 21-year-old right shot defenseman. So a thought on what you see in that player, but then look down the road for us. Good team leading the conference. What else are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, the acquisition of David was kind of a no-brainer for us. He was a young player that was looking for a change. I think it just the timing was right. I don't foresee us being able to pick that high in the draft in the upcoming years. So for us to get a kid that was drafted 6th overall was worth giving up the assets for, and I think it was a fair deal. We gave up a 1st-round pick, Damon Hunt, and some other draft picks, but I think that played into what Donnie's plan might be. And but David's got some work to do. He's with the team right now. He's learning all the systems and getting to know his new teammates. But there is a ton of potential for David, and that was kind of it. Look, we still have other assets that we can use to improve our team at the deadline if we choose to do that. But hey, listen, I learned a lot from Jimmy, and one of the greatest lessons he ever taught me was always make a fair deal. And I think Donnie and I did that. I think, I never try to win the deal. I just want to be fair. I want both teams because if you just try to win the deal, in my mind, my opinion, if you're just trying to win the deal, you're never going to make the deal. And if you win the deal, you might lose a trade partner in the future. So I just try to be fair, and hey, look, I'm always ready.
You guys are off to an amazing start, and one of my favorite players to watch is Kirill Kaprizov. He's just like amazing player. He does so much and he's so quick. When you watch him on the ice for a 3.5 minute shift, are you thinking, man, that's that's something like? It's amazing, like what he did in overtime the other night, that he can
Yeah.
So good.
he can scoot around like that. Man, I just love watching him play.
Yeah. I'm thinking, I think he's got 4.5 in him.
You think
I
he
think
can
he could
stretch it
stay
out?
out there for 4. Yeah, he just stretch it out. I was hoping he would. No, no, it
That
was
was
kind of funny
crazy.
because I'm like right before he scored that goal, I'm like, God, Krill, I'm thinking to myself, get off the ice. You're exhausted. But
Or not.
you know how with these special players, how they think, and um, hey, look, he did what he had to do, and he has been absolutely incredible. Somebody asked me like, who are you most surprised with on your team? And I said, well, him,
Hmm.
because he was pretty special last year too, and the year before,
Yeah.
and the year before. He's taken his game to a whole new level. And I would think that if they were giving out the Hart Trophy today, he would win it.
Mhm.
And he's been the backbone of our team.
Well, it's been an amazing start. So now you're going to go into the Christmas break here, and you've got a goalie that's leading the league in save percentage and goals against average, and in Gustafson, and your defense is coming back healthy. You hope to get Brodeen back soon. Like, is there anything of immediacy in Minnesota that you look at, or is it just time to settle and let your guys play a
Mm.
bit?
Yeah, I think just let him play. I mean, the biggest thing for me is for us to stay humble, stay grounded. Look at this league is unforgiving, and if you don't respect it, if you don't respect your opponents, you can dig yourself a hole real fast. So we're in a really nice spot right now, but let's not take it for granted. We're here for a reason. And it's because we played as a team. We fight hard every night. We've got good goaltending, goal scoring, but we have to show up every night and compete, because it can go away as quickly as we got it.
Good stuff. Well, Billy, we'll let you go there. Clearly, I maybe not so clear for anybody watching on our YouTube channel. It looks like you're in an airport lounge. Either that or that's
I
your
am.
nice office. Yeah.
No,
Good.
I am. I'm in an airport lounge right now.
All
Can't
right,
tell you
buddy.
where I'm going.
No
Oh, see, he's
outing
got
mission.
something going. Drags, he's
No,
got
you know
something
what?
going.
Honestly, I no, I do not have anything going right now. Our team's going out west. I am gonna go to my wife and I just bought a place in Arizona
Nice.
not too long ago. So we're gonna go down there for 2 nights, and then I'm gonna head down to the Board of Governors from there.
I'll see you
Awesome.
there. I'll see you
All
there.
right, see
Looking
you there,
forward
buddy.
to it. Yeah. All right, Billy. Thanks
Billy,
for joining
thanks.
us.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, always a good time to have our good friend Bill Guerin on the Rain Tricks Hockey Podcast. That he's got that perfect compliment, doesn't he? Of he can be serious. I mean, clearly he's a thinker and knows how to construct a winning roster. He's done that in Minnesota. Time will tell if he's done that with Team USA. But then you can have some fun. Oh, I can't tell you where I'm going. Well, actually, my wife and I bought a place in Arizona and going there for a couple of days and then on to the Board of Governors meetings. Like
Yeah.
he's such a beauty.
He thought about that for a second. And he went, "Oh, what the hell's the matter?" You know what's interesting though? Like he mentioned, you guys talked about Jimmy Rutherford and him. Don Waddell was in Pittsburgh. John Hines, as coach, was in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Sullivan from Pittsburgh. The management tree out of Pittsburgh is enormous,
Mm-hmm.
and it's everywhere. The influence that Jim Rutherford has had on all kinds of people. That Jason Botterill's another one who's in Seattle. Ron Francis is in Seattle. Like they all came through that Pittsburgh. There must be 15 of them. It's really, really pretty remarkable.
No question about that. And the beauty of Billy too, he's always been that character as a player.
Yeah.
That fiercely competitive, but a character. And I think of the number of times our paths crossed during those Pittsburgh days, right? And I got the sense, he's always eager and open, aren't we all, to new opportunity and what else might be out there, but never in a rush too. Like he recognized the environment that he was in as an assistant GM in Pittsburgh, to your point, right? I went, hey,
Yep.
I'm in no rush. When the right opportunity presents, it'll
Right.
be the right opportunity. But you look at that Minnesota Wild team, and I asked him, and he's like, yeah, I'm open to opportunity, and we might do something closer to the trade deadline. Is there a hole in that lineup or something that you think would just kind of push them over the edge in the West?
Well, I think they could probably use another centerman. Although I don't think there's anything wrong with their center position.
Yeah.
The reason being, so Eck got hurt the other day. Joel
Big
Eriksson
loss.
Eck. He's a terrific player. And you can see how quickly your depth goes. It's just shot.
Yeah.
Marco Rossi's made a big step for them. But I don't know if you can insulate yourself to an injury, but that might be a place that you can look. But man, they're a well put together team. They really are. I liked how he acknowledged that the wing is much easier than playing center. I think that was.
You just absolutely lured him into that.
Oh, that's
tremendous.
We always used to say, oh yeah, I'm gonna stick that guy over on the wing, just cut out half his brain, and then he can just go play by the boards.
Hasn't scored in 28 games, so as a centerman, let's just throw him on the wing and get his confidence up again.
And then, of course, he goes, I thought it was pretty hard.
Oh, so good, so good. All right, buddy, we'll wrap up here because it does feel like we're going to spend a lot of time in the months ahead talking about the Minnesota Wild, one of the better stories in the NHL. You've got a big game tonight, Thursday, as we record Ray and Dregs, and then what about the weekend? Back home,
Thursday at the Islanders, Friday at the Rangers, and then back home Saturday. And I've got Tampa Bay and Vancouver on Sunday afternoon. So it's a tough little turnaround there, but we'll look forward to getting back home. But should be 2 fun nights in New York here. I love doing the games here.
Good stuff. Well, always a pleasure. Good week again.
Get that snow cleaned at home and keep people safe. Hey, Drakes, that's your mission this weekend.
It is our mission, and for anyone listening to the podcast, they did not call in the National Guard here, so we're all good. We're all good. All right, buddy.
Good.
Safe
Thanks
travels.
for listening, everyone. Yep. Be well, Drakes.
Thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs and make the podcast possible. Our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. Thank you to Tim Hortons, and thank you to Acon. Till next time, stay safe, everybody.